The Verdict with World Pool.
Hi there everybody, welcome to this week's edition of The Verdict. We've got lots to pack in this week. We'll be taking you to Kempton Park, to Epsom, to Sandown and to Navan. And at the end of the show, we'll bring you the World Pool Race of the Week as well. So without further ado, let's crack on with the opening contest of the show. And it comes from Kempton Park. Earlier in the week, we'll have a look at the winners and the times for you. It was a good card, this. Ernst Blofeld made all. Pretty good time, that, over the 10 furlong trip of 2:06.22. Military Order won the Magnolia Stakes, listed race. But if we go all the way down to Top Warrior, that's the horse I want to concentrate on. Joint best time with Military Order when put against the Racing Post standards. Let's see what the Race IQ Time Index makes of this performance, and it was the best on the card, a 9.1 out of 10. These were pretty good times. The meeting average, 7.1 out of 10. There wasn't much slow, I don't think, in the going description. It was standard to slow. I think it was just standard, really. Quick reminder, 0 to 10. These times are judged on looking at the final time and comparing it with historical data for races of the classes that were run at Kempton on Bank Holiday Monday. So let's have a look at Top Warrior and see why he did produce such a good time. Final times are okay, but it's how they are produced that matters. He came from stall 2. He beat Hootie Hoo from 8 and Kibar from stall number 5 was back in 3rd spot. This was his second career start. He jumped pretty well. 2.6 seconds it took him to get up to 20 miles an hour. That's 7th fastest in the race, but he was soon in a good position down towards the inside in a race that was quite evenly run. The first furlong was run as what you'd expect, really, run to par. A little bit slow in the second furlong, and then the next 2 furlongs are run to par as well, courtesy of Hootie Hoo, who was a bit keen out in front, and who had beaten Top Warrior when they last met, and beaten him pretty comfortably. But Top Warrior has improved no end for that experience, and he shows a really good turn of foot here. Look at his final 2 furlongs, 22.62, to give him above par finishing speed percentage. Boys, he finished quick, 104.85 with a par at 103.1, and here he fires the only sub-11 second furlong in the race, the only horse to do so. 10.98 seconds through that 5th furlong, took him from 2nd to 1st, and that second last furlong is rated as fast as against the Race IQ par, and the final furlong is fast as well with an 11.65. That is a blinding turn of foot from this young horse who's just having his second start, and he's going to be a very good 3-year-old sprinter this season, I think. He might well be contesting graded contests towards the end of it. You see his time index there was very good. The time analysis of the race is fast, 1.49 under the Race IQ standard. Best time on the card, and it was an excellent card as well, and he has spread eagled them. Hootie Hoo's not run too badly in second place, bit too keen out in front. Kibar, a little bit of lay headway from Kibar, ran on quite well in the closing stages. That wasn't too bad an effort from that horse, who was quicker in the final 2 furlongs than the runner-up. So Kibar did come home reasonably well, but this horse sprinted through the second last furlong. Really impressive data from him. Top Warrior, the name. Roger Varian trains him, and there's going to be an awful lot more to come from him. I wouldn't be surprised if they think about the Commonwealth Cup from him. He's going to need a lot more experience. He's going to need a few more runs under his belt, but he took a massive step forward from his first run to this one, and he was impressive. It was great to be back at Epsom last week on what was a blue ribboned trial day. Let's have a look at the winners from that day. So there's a big surprise in the big race of the day. Sea Scout winning the blue ribbon at a big price. And the time for that race was all right. It had quite a high finishing speed percentage. They finished quite quickly after going a steady gallop early on. But one horse who didn't produce a good final time, but I think is worthy of some analysis, is Jackknife in the 3:55. That was over a mile and 113 yards on his debut. Let's have a look and see what the Race IQ Time Index makes of his performance. Well, it wasn't too bad an effort from Jackknife. Overall, he's produced just an average sort of time. 6.4 was his index score. The average for the meeting was 6.5, and you can see there sometimes were better than him. But it's the way he produced that time that I want to have a look at now as we take it from the 9 furlong start. He came from stall number 5, and he beat the King's Falcon from 1 and Spirit of Albion from stall number 4. Pick him up there, he's making his debut, and he shows a tremendous turn of foot to win this race. He had a lot of inexperience you could see throughout the race, but he overcame that, and he overcame the camber as well and quickened up well. He got out of the stalls okay, 2.91 seconds to 20 miles an hour. He was 6th fastest, but nothing jumped really alertly and went clear. But it's the end of the race that's so impressive as far as this fellow is concerned, because the gallop was really steady. They crawled early on, they just went uphill a little bit, and then they swing downhill. But the first 3 furlongs, 2 of them were rated as slow as against the Race IQ Par, and 2 of the next 3 thereafter were slow as well. So what this led to was a very fast finish. The horse that could quicken best was going to win this. A good example of, in a slowly run race, you don't necessarily need to be at the front. You just need to be the horse that can quicken best, the horse that can sprint best. And that proved to be Jackknife. I'll give you some of these mid-race sectionals. They were very slow. 13.23 the 3rd furlong, 12.85, 12.3. Really steady, and bear in mind that they were doing those slow fractions running downhill as well. This is where they started to crank it up a little bit. The 3rd last furlong was run to par. They ran a 10.93, and then Jackknife towards the outside quickened up in really good start. This is where they picked up 3 furlongs out, and his final 2 furlongs were rated as very fast as against Race IQ Par. His final 3 was 33.23. And look at this. He's done a 10.58 second furlong for the 2nd last furlong. He's absolutely flying out there. He's really quickened up well. That gave him a finishing speed percentage of 113.6. Just a reminder what that means. He's 13.6% quicker in the final 3 furlongs than the rest of the race. So what we had was a slowly run contest. And then when we picked him up 3 out, he quickened really well. Very impressive the way he picked up and quickened towards the outside of the field, given it's his first run and given that he had to put up with the camber at Epsom as well. The win time is good. The time index not so good. It's all right as against what else happened on the card, but it's what he did in the closing stages of this race that was so impressive. He beat the King's Falcon in 2nd place and Spirit of Albion in 3rd, and they could just not live with his final 3 furlong speed. The first 2 pulling a little way clear of the rest. And to be fair, those horses that were ridden more prominently than him, well, you'd have thought that they had an advantage, but his speed got him out of a lot of trouble. And it should be noted too that he's not given a hard time, is he? It's all hands and heels, trying to keep him off the runner-up and trying to keep him straight and stop him hanging down that camber. It's a real taking performance from Jackknife. We can sum it up now and have a look at some Race IQ data from the race for you. There's his break speed, 6th fastest. His top speed in the race, it was the best speed overall, 42.26 miles an hour. And he did that in that penultimate furlong that we highlighted. And look, he's gone past horses in front of him who were finishing strongly. The King's Falcon, Spirit of Albion, they all finished well with high finishing speed percentages, but he was just too quick at 10.58. A very impressive penultimate furlong from Jackknife, a name to conjure with going forward. Let's turn our attentions to the end of last week and to Sandown Park. And they staged a couple of really excellent days racing, of course, culminating in that fight for the National Hunter Trainers title won by Willie Mullins. But on the Friday, there was a really good flat card. And here are all of the winners. Queen All-Star winning on the sprint track, 5th column, quite impressive in the Godolphin Blue. Al Arcee, good performance from him in the 2:25. We'll have a look at that. And we'll look at Dancing Gemini, put up one of the best time performances of the season so far in taking the 3 o'clock. Swagman laying down a claim for the Derby for the Aidan O'Brien team. We'll look at him as well. Tati Coram, a very slow time. That was a crawl, that race, and Sing as a Song in the 4:45. But we'll start with Al Arcee. He's been a tremendous racehorse over the years for William Haggis. Time indexes for you then. The 3 races you want to look at, 2:25, 3 o'clock and 3:35. And that is the 4th, 5th and 6th races on there. The average was 4.7. And that's brought down by that Tatticorn time. That's really, really slow. Look, a 1.3 time index. Al-Arsi's race that didn't produce a good index at all, 3.6. But Dancing Gemini, 6.1 and 5.5 for Swagman, not too bad at all. So I think we were just dealing with ground as described, good to soft in places, possibly at Sandown on the Friday. So we'll start with Al-Arsi, who overcame trouble in running and didn't get things go his own way. So I wanted to look at how he managed to win this from stall 5, Ancient Wisdom from 4, and Al-Makam, unlucky Al-Makam, definitely unlucky from stall 6. He gets squeezed out in the closing stages. Look at Al-Arsi out the back now. And, well, you know immediately from looking at the pace that they're going that he's inconvenienced by a very steady gallop here. 7th fastest to 20 miles an hour, 3.15 seconds. But he does come home really strongly, overcoming the run of the race because he's got more speed than anything else in the contest. Ancient Wisdom went forward early on, along with Arabian Crown. So they're the two Godolphin horses pushing the pace along. See the Fire was the favourite for this race and well back, sheepskin noseband. She's run okay. She tracked the pace. She was in a good position early on, and Al-Arsi out the back. And the early fractions were really pedestrian. The first 4 furlongs rated as slow as against the Race IQ par. Arabian Crown, 12.87, 12.82, 13.10, and the 5th furlong, a 13.81. So they just got slower and slower in the early part of the race, and things didn't hot up until they turned into the home straight. And just look where Al-Arsi is. Out the back, inconvenienced by the run of the race, and he's got horses to get through as well. But I thought Jim Crowley was really excellent in the closing stages of this race, and we'll see why in a little while. Al-Makam, he's towards the rear as well on the rails in those yellow colours. He gets hampered in the closing stages and needs upgrading a little bit. They begin to turn on the taps now, and the sprint for home starts. And that sprint for home resulted in the finishing speed percentage for Al-Arsi, 106.98. And the par that you'd expect up the hill at Sandown is 101.29. So he's much better than par. He's really sprinted home. But look what he's got to do here. He's got to go and catch a horse that's got an easy lead, and he's in trouble. He's in a pocket. And Jim Crowley's behind See the Fire. Al-Makam pushed along to his right, and now he's got to try and get out and hope Al-Arsi can quicken up. He's just tracking See the Fire through. He's conscious he wants to keep Al-Makam in a pocket. He's not letting Tom Makand out. He's trying to keep him in. And now See the Fire comes across as well, and Al-Makam is squeezed out a little bit just there. But nonetheless, a final 3 furlongs of 36.58 was quick from Al-Arsi, and he had just enough speed to hang on in the closing stages. 11.85 and 12.64 he's come home in. Furlongs rated as very fast, so he's quickened up in good style, Al-Arsi. Jim Crowley was anxious not to get to the front too soon, because what he does is he does quicken, and he only quickens for half a furlong or so, and that's it from Al-Arsi. So you've got to time it right, and he was able to do so. And look, he's definitely anxious to keep Tom Makand in. Good bit of race riding from Jim Crowley. In behind, they finished in a bit of a heap. They run quite well, I thought, Ancient Wisdom, Al-Makam, and indeed See the Fire. Not beaten all that far, but Al-Arsi, he's getting on in years now, but he's still producing this fella, and he's quickened up really well in the closing stages. His final 3 furlongs a lot quicker than the rest of them, and he had to make up 5 or 6 lengths just to get in touch in the home straight. And the takeaway from the race is that it was very steadily run early on and just turned into a dash. As this shows you, the blue showing that we have slow or very slow sectionals as against the Race IQ par. So you can see that they've gone really slow early on, certainly the first 5 furlongs. They then started to pick it up and run par, furlong 6 and 7. And then the sprint is on through those final 3 furlongs where they've gone fast against par and then very fast. And that's interesting because at Sandown you don't often get very fast sectionals as against par up the hill in the closing stages. But Al-Arsi was able to do that because of all of that petrol that he saved through that blue zone early on in the race. OK, let's move on to the Bet365 Mile and the success of Dancing Gemini. This is a very good time performance from Dancing Gemini. It produced a Race IQ time index score of 6.1. The meeting average was 4.7. And it was an evenly run contest with Dancing Gemini showing a good turn of foot. Let's have a look at it. from the start. Stall 1 for Dancing Gemini, Tamfana, I thought shaped really well from 7. And Cicero's Gift, he flashed home and got 3rd place from stall number 3. This featured the return of Hartem as well, who came from stall 2. I thought he ran all right, Hartem. I think he just shaped like he needed the run in the closing stages. He wasn't given a hard time when it looked like he was beaten. He raced in 2nd place for much of the race. He's just about in front at this point, but he's going to be headed in a moment by Ice Max, the grey horse who comes across from the outside. The winner out of the stalls pretty sharply, really, 0 to 20 miles an hour, 2.42 seconds, second fastest in the race, and just tracking the pace, just in behind Hartem in those orange colours, and has got a nice lead through what was an evenly run contest. And you can tell it's quite evenly run if you look at his final 2 furlongs. Look, they're even 12s, really, 24.94. He's just finished off a little bit quicker than par, 102.38% with his par being 101.07. So he's quickened up in reasonable style to win this off what was a pretty good gallop, certainly a much better gallop than the Al Arsi race where they absolutely crawled along. Par sectionals for the first 4 furlongs of this race, and then they quickened up thereafter. Dancing Gemini from 3rd to 2nd with an 11.92, and then 2nd to 1st with an 11.99. So 2 sub-12 second furlongs now taking him to the front, going past Hartem. Watch, he's not given a hard time. He looks like he's blown up to me. And Dancing Gemini does quicken in pretty good style. His last 2 furlongs rated as fast as against the Race IQ par. There you go, 11.99 for his penultimate one. Took him clear of Tamfana, who runs on really well. And her final 2 furlongs, Green Cap and of Oisin Murphy, he's not being hard on her, and she was just a little bit quicker in the last 2 furlongs than the winner. 24.8 as against 24.97. She started her run from behind Dancing Gemini, and she's able to come home just a little bit quicker under a very considerate ride from Murphy. So I think there's going to be a fair bit more to come from her. She, of course, was very unlucky in the 1,000 guineas last year. I think a mile is her trip. You can see there, he's given her a couple of flicks with the whip, but he's not got too serious with her. It's her first run of the season, and she's shaped really well, and the data is quite positive about her. Her final furlong was 12.85, quicker than Dancing Gemini at 12.98. So she's finished her race off really nicely. Cicero's Gift deserves a mention. He had the fastest final furlong in the race, but he was coming from much further back than Dancing Gemini or Tamfana. But he did finish off really well. His 12.67 was the fastest final furlong of the whole race. So he's run pretty well too, evenly run, producing a good final time, a good Race IQ time index. And Dancing Gemini is a horse to keep an eye on over a mile. I think this is his trip. Remember, they tried the Derby with him last year, but he didn't stay. He's got plenty of speed, as this shows. That 37.73 miles an hour was his fastest speed at any individual point through the race. 11.92 through the 6th furlong. His fastest furlong, 102.2. His finishing speed percentage, a few of them coming home slightly quicker than Dancing Gemini, who was ridden to good effect just in behind the pace. Tamfana and Cicero's Gift coming from further back. I think it's going to be a formful race, this, and if you want to take one horse going out of the Bet365 Mile, it has to be Tamfana. Time to have a look at the 3rd race from Sandown that caught my eye as far as the Race IQ data was concerned, and it is the Bet365 Classic Trial. It's a Group 3 contest for which Windlord was the well-backed favourite, but he couldn't get the job done. Swagman was the winner. We'll take it from the start and highlight him in stall number 2. Windlord came from 3 and Demisius from 5, shaped with a good deal of promise in 3rd spot, and there could be a fair bit more to come from him. He's easy to spot. He's got the big white face on the outside of the field as Windlord takes them along in the early part of the race. Swagman out fairly quickly, 2nd fastest at 20 miles an hour, 2.51 seconds he took. You can see from the finishing speed percentage of Swagman here, 104.16, that they haven't gone that quick early on, and he's able to reserve energy for quite a strong finish up the hill. There he is, sat in 3rd spot under Ryan Moore, with Windlord getting the run of the race out in front. First 2 furlongs were run as you might expect, but it really steadied through the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th furlong. It didn't go that fast here, and you can see that Demisius out the back with a big white face is a bit keen, and he's inconvenienced by the run of the race. I think he's a horse to keep a very close eye on. So they've gone 12.89, 13.14, 13.34, a 14.10 round the bend, and a 13.05. So really it's a dawdle out there. It's rather like the Al-Arsi race. It's not like the Dancing Gemini race, and it's going to turn into a sprint. So if you're thinking of Swagman for the Derby, well, you've just got to think about stamina a little bit, because this was not a test of stamina at the 10 furlong trip. This was just a test of speed. That's all it was, with Windlord beginning to wind it up from the front now, but Ryan Moore's in a good place to come and attack in third spot. Look how detached Demisius is at this stage, but he's nurtured into the race by William Buick, and he produces quite a strong finish. Now, the finish that Swagman produces is good enough to get the job done, 37.49 seconds through the final 3 furlongs, and that gives him that finishing speed percentage of 104.16. The other horses, all of them, finished with an FSP above 100, so they've all finished quite strongly through the race. But Swagman, just a bit too quick. His last 2 furlongs rated as very fast as against the Race IQ Pars, a 12.09 and a 13.2. But I point you in the direction of the big white face, Demisius. He's got himself into contention now, and he's run the fastest final furlong in the race, of 13.12. And William Buick's not been too hard on him either. I think he's just starting to empty before the line, having been keen in the early part of the race. So we've got a classic trial in name, but we've got a sprint really in nature, because they crawled for 5 or so furlongs and then sprinted to produce a wind time of 2:10.93, and that's 0.07 above the Race IQ Pass. So a race of this standard, you expect them to go under really, and just 5.5 for the time index. The average at 4.7. So, look, he's won. Aidan O'Brien, some of his horses are not winning first time up. They need a run. He may well have needed it, but he's got away with it, Swagman, and he's an interesting horse going forward for Aidan O'Brien. And clearly there'll be more to come. Ryan Moore afterwards, when interviewed on Racing TV, he was pretty positive about this fella. He quite liked him. I think he just felt that he'd done all that was required and all that was asked of him in a race that turned into a little bit of a sprint. So let's just sum up what happened out there. And once again, I want to colour code it for you. Very slow, par, fast and very fast. This is as against the Race IQ Par. Look at that mid part of the race. Furlongs 3 to furlong 7 for most of the runners. They were going really steady, particularly steady through furlongs 5 and 6. And then the sprint is on when it turned green towards the end. And quite quick he was in the final furlong. Swagman at 13.2, but not quite as quick as Demisius at 13.12, who might be a type for Royal Ascot, you would have thought. Swagman will no doubt take in a Derby trial after this, where he'll have to prove his stamina. It's well worth having a look at the Navan card on Saturday. It features some really good races. The return of Kyprios, the Salsaville Stakes, which was run at an absolute crawl, and a very good 2-year-old as well. Let's have a look at the winners from Saturday afternoon. Beano Power taking the first. Charles Darwin's one we'll look at. Whistle Jacket. He's back for the Aidan O'Brien team with a hard-fought success, you'd have to say, in the 250. Kyprios, he won an absolute crawl. Look at his time, 14.67 outside the Racing Post standard. He can do anything, that horse. He can sprint when he has to, and that's what he did there. And some nice winners towards the end of the card as well. So it's a really good and interesting card. The thing to say when we look at the Race IQ time indexes is that the ground was a lot quicker than described. It was soft officially, but these time indexes suggest that it wasn't that. It was probably good ground overall. The meeting average was 7.4, and well, the Charles Darwin produced a really good time for a 2-year-old, 8.4. In the second race, Kyprios, well, not such a good one for old Kyprios. 5.4 for him in a race run at an absolute crawl, but he can do anything, that horse. He stays and he can quicken as well. But let's have a look at this 2-year-old, because he could be Coventry bound, I think, and he'll be, well, almost to the 4 of the market. He might even be favourite now. Charles Darwin from 7 beats Hamani from 6, a newcomer. Nakamura from 9 was back in 3rd place. This is just brazen speed, really, from Charles Darwin. Look at that. Bang, out of the gates first to 20 miles an hour, 2.5 seconds. And Ryan Moore just lets him roll. He doesn't take a pull out of him. He doesn't really want to check his momentum. He just lets him roll along and edges him across to the far rail. And here on in, he completely dominates this race. And look how fast he is as against par. Now, bear in mind at Navan, they're running uphill in the closing stages. It is quite stiff. And he's able to beat the par easily, 106.13. And the par is under 100 at 99.73. So he sprinted through the final couple of furlongs and he's got an even 24 seconds for those two. And his last 2 furlongs rated as very fast as against par and doing it uphill. He's about to do that now. His penultimate 11:38 quickens from the front, very fast, and then a 12.62 also rated as very fast. And look at Ryan. I mean, his body language is, he's not particularly animated, is he? He's just pushing him out, hands and heels. Runner-ups run okay. Hermione on debut, quite well found in the market, Hermione, so clearly fancied, but could not live with this very exciting 2-year-old Charles Darwin. This is a race that Aidan O'Brien's got a good record in over the years, and I think he's unleashed a really good 2-year-old here who could have gone faster, I think. Ryan Moore was able to dictate fairly steady fractions the 2nd furlong and the 3rd furlong. You could just say he was able to save a bit of petrol through those couple of furlongs for his fast finish. But overall, this is a dominant display. Nothing's making much ground on him. If they'd gone another furlong, he'd have won by much further than he did in the end. I think he's a really nice 2-year-old. And the Coventry beckons maybe one more run, and then off to Royal Ascot for Charles Darwin, where he'll probably be quite hard to beat. Let's just sum up the data that we saw from Race IQ. Once again, I'll use the past sectionals. See, those 2nd and 3rd furlongs were quite slow. They were quite steady at 12.62 and 12.38. And then Ryan really cranked it up with 11.81 past sectional. And then the horse finished really fast and really responded for Ryan. 11.38 and 12.62 rated as very fast. And 24 seconds for his final couple of furlongs. And I put it to you that he could have been faster. A time now on the verdict for the Whirlpool Race of the Week, and it comes from Sha Tin on Sunday, where Car Ying Rising once again strutted his stuff in the big sprint of the day. He was wildly impressive yet again at his favourite track, over 1,200 metres. Let's take a look at what he achieved out there. Stall 4 beat stall 6, beat stall 13. He beat Satono Rev and Helios Express back in 3rd spot. A turning 1,200 metres. Sometimes he bowls along in front and makes the running. He's certainly got a very high cruising speed, but here he was rated just off the speed, a little bit wide from his draw. And what's so impressive is how fast he finished this race and how quickly he came home for a win time of 107.88. Now, he's the course record holder here, over 1,200 metres. He didn't quite get to his course record of 107.2, but not too far off it. And to be honest, if he'd really been pressed, he might well have broken the track record again. Such was his authority here. And his sectionals were very impressive. He went 11.24, 11.16, and then 10.57 as he quickened up there, red sleeves, yellow cap, towards the outside, the 800 metre to 1,000 metre pole. And that finished off his rivals. That burst of speed, that sub-11 second furlong, took him to the front, and then it was just a case of being pushed out. And in fact, you'd say he's down inside the final 100 yards or so. I think the track record might well have come tumbling down if he'd been hard pressed. There's got to be loads more to come from this horse, but surely international competition is what's required now, because he has been bossing the sprinting scene in Hong Kong for some while now. Quite simply, the best sprinter in the world. That was the Whirlpool Race of the Week. Well, that's it for this week's edition of The Verdict. I hope you enjoyed everything that we're able to bring you today. Some very nice performances. I think one takeaway would be Jackknife. His performance at Epsom was really taking what he did in the final 3 furlongs. Very impressive indeed. There's going to be loads more to come from him, and lots more on The Verdict next week, because we'll be having a look back at the 1,000 and 2,000 guineas. See you then.
The Verdict with Whirlpool.